I am super over the moon excited about today's conversation because I have a feeling that as we come into the holiday season that some of you who might be sensitive to energy have experienced pressure and stress in a different way in this particular season. And the person that we're going to be having a conversation with is going to gift you nuggets and jewels and truly amazing pieces that are going to impact your life, not just for this season, but I think for the years to come. And as promised, I'm bringing Elle Ingalls in right away. Elle, I would love for you to share your story of how pressure-free living came about. You are somebody who has traveled internationally. You are a musician at the highest level. You have trained other musicians at the highest level as well. So how did this concept of pressure-free living come about?
Oh, I'm going to share, first of all, welcome. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. As I reflect and look at my life, sometimes it's out of our messes comes the most important things for us. And so there were two times in my life where I experienced some real mess.
Mm.
And then the third thing that I want to share is like how this got started. So I want to go back to the messes first because I think it's important. When I was in high school, I was a musician, runner, high achiever, and I was a top 2 miler wanting to run in college, trained in some wrong shoes and ended up ruining my knees for track season. So badly I could barely walk, let alone run. And it was very devastating to me because it makes me almost cry thinking about it. I couldn't leave my girls. I couldn't leave my team. I was the distance captain and I loved my team so much. So I went to the coaches and said, "Can I apprentice coach?" Of course, they said, "Sure," threw a clipboard in my hand and suddenly I'm taking all the splits and,
Sure.
doing work. And so I have this picture, I still keep it today, of me standing on the Dartmouth track with a clipboard. And my legs are kind of like if you looked at my legs, Sarah, you'd say, "Oh, I can see that she's not well."
Right.
Okay, because like one of my knees is kind of in a little bit, like I'm protecting a little bit.
Yes.
But I've got the clipboard and a girl's crossing the finish line from my high school, and there I am.
Yes.
So that what started to happen when I came into that role as apprentice is suddenly girls and boys started making a little line to talk to me before their events for me to calm them down. And they were like our top athletes about to do a certain event. And they're like, tell me how to calm down right now. And because I'd been performing as a violinist since I was young, I knew how to take the stage. I knew how to go into something cool, calm, collected, and just slay it. So
Absolutely.
that's what they wanted. And I was just able to just share a couple things. And I think it was more energetic as much as what I was saying with my words for them to
Yes.
feel okay. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yes.
of course you do. So, for them to feel okay. So there's that little thing, but way back then. And then in college, um, I went to University of Michigan, um, and I couldn't run, so I ended up actually rowing. So then, a door closes, another thing opens,
Opens up.
and I
Yes.
won a spot in the varsity boat my freshman year. So that was super amazing and cool. Um, and so I just share that because, sometimes out of that pain comes something different
Yes.
that you never would have experienced had you not gone through something else. So
So true.
a little lesson there for me, big time. But I did my undergrad, and then junior year, my conducting professor, my very first one, he said, "You have what it takes to go all the way." Talking
Yes.
an international career, like you have what it takes. And so he actually took me aside, put me in a special program where I could design my own curriculum. Then for 2 years in between my undergrad and graduate work, I just worked my butt off. My intention was to get into the graduate program at Michigan with one of the greatest professors in the world. He's
Right.
trained pretty much everyone that's on the podium
Yes.
today has been
Yes.
touched by this fellow. So
Yes.
it's like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. So I get in. It's a miracle. And I was the first woman, broke a glass ceiling. Like,
Exactly. The first. Yes.
really, really amazing. And I also did an MBA at the same time. So I'm conducting a concert with a clarinetist, goes super well. We're back in the green room, and he goes, "Will you play first violin in the Mozart's clarinet quintet for my senior recital? That was just so much fun." So of course I say yes because we're
Of
feeling great.
course.
But then I'm kind of like, oh crap, I'm not really playing my violin as much as I used to, as an undergrad,
Right.
because I'm in this conducting thing now. But I practice, I'd been a professional at that point playing in symphonies and stuff. So I practice, everything's cool, rehearsals go great. So, people say that public speaking is one of the top stressors and things that people are afraid of. They're not afraid of public speaking. They're afraid of public speaking in front of a certain group of people or person.
Yes.
That's the real truth, right?
Yes, it
So
is.
the night of the recital, normally a music recital has just like the parents and a few friends and the professor. That's pretty
Right.
much about it, right? It's just in the small recital hall, not the big hall where we just were
Right.
together. Just
Right.
a cool thing.
It's
Well, we
all the people who have been walking with this person through the process of them actually getting to this point.
getting through their degree program, right? And it's
Exactly.
very intense, by the way. Like
It is.
it's the culmination. It's your culminating performance. So it's a
Right.
big deal for this young man.
Yes.
He was, college student. So
Yes.
anyway, we walk out on stage, and this kid must have been the most popular kid in the music school because it was standing room only.
Yes.
And in the back was the entire string faculty there to see the string quartet play the Mozart clarinet quintet. I did not expect that. I had conducted and played for many recitals.
Sure.
Time at Michigan. Never had this occurred like this.
Right.
And so we went out on stage, and I had also never experienced stage fright or performance anxiety in my life.
Exactly.
So I got out there. I thought I was having a heart attack. And if anybody has had a panic attack, it can mimic a heart attack. Like
Right.
my heart was beating out of my chest. Everything was red. My hands were all sweaty. I could barely hold my bow.
Right.
And I have to lead this whole thing, right? So
Right.
and also I couldn't really see the music or hear. Like my senses were so off. So I got done the performance and was pro enough to get through it. We got backstage show, and I had tears in my eyes, and I said, "I think I just ruined your performance. Like I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry." And he just looked at me and said, "What are you talking about?" So of course he was in his own world, his own thing.
Right. Right.
Even though we were all playing together.
Yes.
But I had never experienced that, Sarah. So I heard the recording, and it was fine. It was not my best playing, but it was fine. Whenever I hear the Mozart clarinet quintet on like the radio or something, I have to be careful not to trigger the stress response.
Right. Exactly.
It was such a traumatic event. But that night in my apartment, I'm like, this can never happen again. I can't get on the podium and have a breakdown.
Right.
So that was before, this is the 80s. So it's before like the Inner Game of Music, Inner Game of Tennis, or any of those books had come out. So I took myself to the Michigan Medical Library, where I had done some research for a psych paper once. And I went to the research librarians, and I went like several times, and I'm like, give me everything you have on mind-body connection. I want to know what happened to me. And so I just kind of delved into it, and then created for myself ways to take the stage and have that under control, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that messy thing happened.
Yes.
Then fast forward to 2010. In 2010, we're sitting around our dining room table. It's kind of like the center of our home.
Sure.
And my eldest son, my two older boys were playing baseball for the same team, high school. And my eldest son goes, "Mother, you should coach our baseball team in your mental toughness things you teach us. We would be amazing." And I just started laughing, like, who wants their mother in the dugout? That's
Right.
And I had coached them in middle school track, so they were familiar with me as an athletic coach, but
Sure.
baseball's a whole different deal.
Yes.
So my son said, "No, Mother, we're serious. We want you to do this." And my middle son too was nodding his head. He's like, "We want you to do it."
Wow.
So that night, it literally stuff started just pouring out of me, and I started writing and then typing. And
Yes.
my husband's a professional writer, so he tightened the language, threw in some baseball graphics, and I had this very rude or crude pamphlet. It wasn't rude, it was crude. It was like, it was just, not special at all, but it was something.
Right.
I brought it to the coaches. I brought it to the AD first, and he said, take it to the head coach. He was completely supportive. Took it to the head coach, and he was a financial planner. It's 2010.
Mm.
And as I show him what I want to do, I demonstrated what I wanted
Right.
to do, which is what I'm going to do here for you guys.
Mm.
I demonstrated. He goes, oh my gosh, will you be my private coach? I need this. And then my department chair at the college where I've taught for years, she goes, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Grabs her checkbook, like, how much can I pay you? Right? Like, this is,
Right. Yes.
so those two messy events, and then this third thing, is how it all started to come to be.
Mhm.
And the reason we named it the pressure-free method is because that truly means is whatever pressures or stressors or challenges come your way,
Mhm.
you stay free of triggering the fight or flight stress response and
Yes.
releasing hormones in your body. Some of us do it very subtly and are not even aware of it,
Right.
but it's those hormones that are really the silent killers.
Yes.
And it's not just your heart, it's every single bit of your being, both your
Yes.
energetic being and every cell is affected. Your homeostasis in every cell is
Yes.
thrown out of whack.
Yes.
And so to me, like delving into my research, so I went deep because I'm a why
Of
girl.
course. Yes.
Okay, so now I'm starting to coach these people and I go really deep and I'm like, okay, it's not enough to be calm just before we take the stage or the field.
Right.
If you've triggered the stress response, there are two different floods of hormones that go out at different times.
Mm.
And once you release that first flood, you are now in what I refer to as the stress cycle.
Right.
When you're in that stress hormonal cycle, your every bit is compromised. Your cognitive function is compromised, like everything is compromised. So you're not your best self, either behaviorally or emotionally,
Right.
physically. Like you're not your best self. And so even if your game or your event, your speaking event, whatever it is you're doing is hours later, you're
Right.
still not optimal.
Right.
And I'm using that word very, very purposefully because there's a lot today about positive psychology and happiness.
Mm.
And what I've come to learn is that some people feel guilty that they don't feel happy.
Mm.
So I've been moving toward the word optimal, which for
Yes.
years I've used the word as optimal performance, but
Right.
now I'm using it as optimal mind.
Ooh, I like that.
My music stand is behind me, and actually this was the download. I was practicing a serious piece of music, and I realized that I was not happy in that moment. Like this is a serious kind of sad piece of music, but I was so optimal. Like I
Oh,
was so in it. Do you know what I mean?
yes.
And
Yeah.
many of the people that I coach, they are serious professionals. They're people, even my young students, like they're serious about what they do, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so when I kind of switched up that language from
Mm.
happiness and positive to optimal,
Mm.
it's made a qualitative difference in my clients and in my coaching. So
My shoulders just went back and up, Elle. I have to tell you, just using that word in our conversation, I'm like, oh, that is the word. That
optimal.
just, it sits, right? It fits in such a place because no matter where we are, our optimal is going to be that. It's going to be our best in that particular situation. And feeling the optimal is
Yeah.
going to be different day to day, time to time, season to season. However, we have these choices that we get to make in this process. And I love that you've taken the word happy out of it, because I think that some people chase happiness and are not sure what it is when they stumble upon it, and then are afraid of it, perhaps because it's so foreign, euphoric, or whatever that happens to be. So I really appreciate you considering the language, and then
Mhm.
and I love that it happened while you were practicing something that was serious, but yet it was your optimal, right? I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. So that's how pressure-free living came to be.
Mm.
And That was 2010. Since then, I've coached hundreds of people privately and thousands of people in groups. I'll
Yes.
speak to groups of any size, and I coached my private clients as young as 10. And I have a real soft spot for working with students because if they learn this at this age, it can transform everything for them.
Exactly.
And I'm sure there's going to be some people listening here who have young people in their life, whether you're a grandparent, parent, or sibling, or whatever.
Right.
I do want to just share that I had a 12-year-old who came to me for his sport. And the second session, and he goes, "This helps with school, doesn't it?" I go, "Yeah, tell me about it." He goes, "Well, this is how he described it." He goes, "I have ADHD and I'm a CD student. But this week I got an A on my history test for the first time in my life." So I looked at him and I go, "Oh, you have ADHD, so you're brilliant, number one.
Yes. Right.
Number two, you just can't sit still because you've triggered the stress response," which is what he figured out.
Yes.
So he goes, and I go, "You're not a CD student. You just proved it." So
Yes.
he ended up an honor student, straight A's all the way through high school.
Incredible.
And it was like, okay, where would that young man be if he
Yes.
was a CD student the whole time? I
Right.
believe that every human brain is brilliant. In fact, when I have
Yes.
students who have all
Yes.
A's, I'm like, we got to take you to a different school.
Right.
Let's expand this. You need to learn more. Right?
Exactly.
I'm still kind of a bell curve girl. Like,
Yes. The
let's get
pond
this
is too
up.
small. Let's go for a lake.
Yeah, we got to go harder. So, and most of my clients are that way. Like they either want to improve something, step into more potential for themselves, or they're really crippled by stress and anxiety. And so, and I go back to the ADHD. So ADD, ADHD, PTSD, GAD, OCD, every single one of those diagnoses, the symptoms of them exactly match the symptoms of triggering fight or flight.
Yes.
So that is the root cause of
Yes.
all mental and physical chronic disease. It either causes it or exacerbates it.
Correct.
And so cleaning that up
Mhm.
can be truly transformative and miraculous for people. And I didn't even understand that when I first started this. I thought I was just going to help people perform better, right?
Sure.
And
Yes.
then all of a sudden, like miracle cures, and people feeling things they never felt before. And
Mm.
one of my young clients said, "Oh, you're just teaching people how to be grown-ups, but grown-ups don't know how to be grown-ups." Like, we're all still in middle school, everybody.
Yeah.
And it's because of these hormones. So Sarah, I would love to just dive in and share the method if you're up for it.
I would absolutely love that. I am super excited for this part because you are gifting this to people to be able to take in right now and understand for themselves this tool. So you're not just saying there's a tool out there, you're actually sharing this tool. And definitely in the description is ways to get a hold of you for people who are interested in you coming and teaching it to the group or working individually with people or teaching people how to teach other people how to do this. You have really taken this method to all the different levels of that. So yes, we are listening carefully.
And when I get to the tools part, I'll share some tools. And please know that like in my toolkit are over 50 tools. So if the tools I share today, they're like, "Oh, these don't work," like if that's your feeling, oops, I got to plug in here. Somehow I didn't plug in. So,
There you are. Now you're plugged in.
here we go. We're plugged in now. If the tools that I happen to share today don't seem to resonate or work for you, please know there's a much bigger toolkit.
Yes.
Because I mean, it would take me days and days for us to do all that.
Which is why when you work with somebody individually, it's over a period of time. It's not just a week or two that you say, okay, now and you're off you go.
No.
That you are there to support, to continue to share more tools and open up the toolbox so that it's a broader, deeper one for the individual.
Yes. So for most of my clients, it's like the 6 to 8 week mark that their breakthrough happens with pressure-free living. Yes. Mine happened at the 8-week mark. And I'll just share a couple of those changes before I dive into this method.
Yes.
I suffered from eczema from the time I had my first violin competition at 13. Like this hand was covered, cracked and bleeding knuckles for 35 years. This whole area of my hand was so ugly that one of my little students thought I had leprosy. Like that's how bad it was. Okay.
Wow.
So really, really bad. And of course I was executive shaking hands. Like it's just completely embarrassing. So that's my hand today for anybody on video. Like, I can't
And
even believe those are my fingers at 61 years old. Like, I can't believe that is my hand.
And I'm so touched by you sharing that, because that's something that I have people that I care deeply about who have bandaged their hands at night, who
Oh,
have done all the different things, right? And
yes.
just looking for answers to be able to, in the morning, to hope that enough had grown back together overnight to be able to do the things the next day. And then washing hands, that's the whole thing.
Oh my God. The pain.
Yes, exactly,
You
exactly,
don't, I realized myself, I didn't, and you may realize this, you don't even realize how much pain you're in until it's gone. So it's
exactly.
like, oh my gosh, every night doing the dishes hurt
Yes,
so much.
yes.
So that happened. Stress fat left my upper torso, like bands of it just kind of disappeared. And my breast tissues completely changed. So I lost my mother to breast cancer at 68. I am now
Right.
61. She had her first round when she was about my age. So um, I had dense fibrous tissue, which can be a precursor. And in 8 weeks of using this method on myself, my tissues completely changed. So that
I
was to
love
me,
that.
like those were the main effects I felt right away for me.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of behavioral ones too, but let's dive into this method for everybody. I love to keep things very simple. I use a lot of alliteration, so that you can remember.
Yes.
And if you're taking notes, like I'll let you know a few things to really take notes on. 3 simple steps: targets, triggers, tools. So we're going to start with targets. Whatever you've experienced up to this point in your life, either performance wise, health wise, relationship wise, what is it that you truly want? What do you really truly desire? Even if it feels impossible, those are your targets. That's what you can start to aim for. Sometimes it's a very tangible things like I want a promotion at work, or I want to grow
Right.
my business. Like it's a very tangible thing. I want to heal my eczema. I
Right.
would never have put that down because I thought that was impossible.
Right.
I would never have put it down.
Right.
I'd had it for 35 years. Why is that going to change?
Right.
And so from age 47 to now, I haven't had it. Quite amazing.
Incredible.
So yeah, so what is it that you truly want and desire? And here's a little 3-step thing to help you open up your targets. If you say to yourself, like I would say to myself, so in the past, I've just always had eczema. Okay, so in the past, whatever it is that you have or has been going on for you, I'm now open to the possibility, and I actually use my hands like this in
Yes.
emotion. I'm
Yes.
open to the possibility that in the future, and then state exactly what you love to
Mhm.
see happen. Now we hear about this all the time, defining the why, but that
Yes.
little 3-step thing I just did, I think we try to jump from here to here. There was no way in my head I could jump from having eczema to not.
Right.
Well, what if I'm open to the possibility?
Yes.
So I started incorporating that in my coaching just about 5 years ago, this idea of opening. And
Yes.
it's been really profound to watch how, I could be open to that.
Mhm.
I get to be open to healing a relationship that has gone a little
Yes.
sideways for a while. I can be open
Right.
to that.
Right.
So, targets, step 1. Step 2, triggers. From a resting heart rate, I'm going to go deep in this particular section, by the way. I'm going to go take a little time to go deep into what is fight or flight. So you can look at it for your own being, but you might want to also have someone else in mind, maybe someone you live with or work with closely, um, to what you see in them. Because I've come to understand that stress and how it affects us is very individuated.
Mhm.
And we have a lot of judgment about it. Like, oh, why are you worried about that? Like, we'll say things like that when someone's like really worried or upset about something, like, oh,
Mhm.
just breathe. I hear that all the time.
It's
That's not helpful.
it isn't.
All right. So from a resting heart rate, we have about 10 seconds before the amygdala and this whole little mechanism in your brain is going to tell your heart rate to charge up to release from the inside of your adrenal glands a flood of hormones.
Mhm.
These are called catecholamines. Adrenaline is one of them. but it is a cocktail. I refer
It
to it as
is.
a cocktail
Yes, it's
because
only one. Yes.
it's like once you take that little cocktail or release it inside your body, you're now under the influence.
Right.
So here's some, and I'm not going to go into all of it because it takes so long, but some of the key things that you might notice in yourself or in others. You may see someone's face turn red or even their neck turn red.
Yes.
Someone's hands and feet might get very cold.
Mm.
You might have trouble seeing, like my music was a little blurry that crazy night.
Right.
I couldn't hear. Have you ever been introduced to someone and 5 seconds later you can't remember the name?
Yeah.
And none of us are stupid. Like, what is going on?
Right.
As we age, we think, oh my gosh, I have a memory issue. It's more than likely a stress hormone issue. We
Yes.
release those hormones. Most people release them before any social event, trying to figure out what to wear, trying to get there in time, or you're meeting people you've never met and that throws you off just a little bit. So that's why you can't remember. It's not your fault. I love to say it's like really not your fault. But once you learn what I share with you today, it will become your fault because you need to be responsible.
Now you'll know. Yes.
No, we're human. We're gonna have times we trigger the stress response. So I have gone more than 100 days and not triggered it. Like it's pretty amazing once you get like rolling. Like with any skill, you get rolling on it.
Yes.
It's like you can really juice pressure free after a while.
Yes.
So we've released these hormones. We're feeling these things. You may feel that racing heart rate. Some people get headaches. Some people feel a lot of tension here. Like it's hard to breathe. It's hard to, or stress-induced asthma, like that can occur. Tightness, like my chest is tight. I feel like I might have a heart attack kind of feeling. For some people, it's like really gut. So dread in the stomach, butterflies in the stomach. You don't want to take in food. Like it feels weird. You may have to pee a lot. Your bladder and sphincter muscles are going to contract. So you may have to get to a restroom like right away.
Right. Yes.
I was working with a speaker once or he was actually, we were just talking, he wasn't my client. We're just talking and he goes, oh no, I'm totally fine. I don't have any stress about speaking or anything. I go, well, one question for you. I go, do you have to go to the restroom right before you take the stage? And he goes, yes. I go, try to go like, did you go within 3 hours before you're about to take the stage? Because ideally, you should be fine if you haven't triggered the stress response. But if you trigger the stress response, your bladder muscles and sphincter muscles are going to contract, and you'll feel like you have to go. So that a lot of people think they have a bladder issue, but it could just be a stress hormone issue. Same thing with the cold hands and feet. People think you have a thyroid issue. Let's check to see if you're releasing too much of your stress hormones first. Right. That could be the reason. Let's go back to the head for a moment. Your tear ducts and your saliva ducts are going to close up and shut down in fight or flight. So that's why if you're going to speak, you may feel like your mouth is dry. Yeah. And that's a clear one for me. I speak a lot. And for the most part now, I have like no dry mouth issues. I may want water just because I'm talking for a while, but I don't need it. And water doesn't really help, by the way, because it's not the same consistency as saliva.
It isn't. Yeah.
But here's why the saliva ducts are closing. Like I'm a why girl again. I got to find out why. So when the saliva ducts close, it's because your whole digestive system is slowing down or stopping.
Yes.
And that's because metabolizing food takes a lot of energy. We want all our energy to fight or run away.
Yes.
We've wicked fat and glucose out of our brain cells and our extremities, which is why our hands and feet get cold, to bring it here so we can fight or run away. Yeah. But we're just sitting still in our cars or about to get into a Zoom meeting or whatever the thing is. So where does the fat go? It lines our torsos. It lines our arteries, which is why stress is called the silent killer. It also builds in that fatty hump at the top of your shoulder blades, which is, if it gets really pronounced, it's called Cushing's disease. Again, Cushing's disease, but what it really is you're constantly bringing fat to that area of your body because of the stress hormones. And when the second flood of hormones goes out, it expands those fat cells. And the deep why is because if you and I were under attack and we ran into a cave And the tiger stays out there for 2 weeks. These fat stores allow us to stay alive.
Exactly.
So that's why if we're constantly under stress, we just keep building stress fat, stress fat, stress fat. And no workout or diet takes it away.
Exactly.
And it's just because our bodies feel, our mind and body have decided we need that fat because we might not get to food.
Right.
So it has a really great purpose.
Mhm.
Reproductive system changes radically too. So difficulty conceiving.
Mhm.
Sometimes I will work with women who no longer have any issues with PMS or cramps or anything once they become
Beautiful.
clean, because the stress hormones impact our gonadal hormones. And
Yes.
for men, for the men watching this, when we trigger fight or flight, we wick fat and glucose away from that area of the body, and the prostate enlarges.
Mm.
So now you have to pee again. Now you have
Right.
to, and now you're worried. Like it's that, just like for me with the breast cancer thing, it was like
Mhm.
this nagging. It wasn't if I might get it, it was a when, for
Mm.
pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
And so not not having that switch flipped in that position, like it's now up, I don't have to go there anymore.
Yeah.
That's huge. And the same thing with any sort of prostate health or reproductive health.
Mhm.
Like these areas of the body are so precious,
They are.
and we have things going wrong with them. It affects us on a deep level. So, oh, also getting uncoordinated. So, back to working with those baseball boys, like it was so cool to watch them just have complete command of their swing and their throws, because they were no longer triggered with these hormones, which makes you overthrow, overreact.
Yes.
That's when I will hit my elbow in the fridge, on the fridge, like over and over in the kitchen, just turning it
Yes.
on, right?
Yes. Yes.
These little uncoordinated things.
Yeah.
So most people know about adrenaline, and some people can feel that release. And some people are, hello, my name is Elle, and I'm an adrenaline addict. Like I was addicted to it.
Yeah.
I thought it made me superwoman,
Right.
but then you hit the wall.
Yeah.
So what's amazing to me, the human body is so beautifully designed.
It is.
When we get to this point where the mind body says, okay, the threat is gone, the tiger is gone,
Right.
we don't need to release these hormones anymore. We can get free. A second flood goes out.
Mhm.
These hormones are called glucocorticoids. So glucose, sugar, and cortisol. There's a lot about cortisol in the mainstream news today. People are trying to reduce their cortisol levels.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. If you've released adrenaline, you do not want to reduce cortisol, because you need the cortisol and glucose to go out and fix these cells. Cortisol and glucose, cortisol and glucose is going to go to the brain cells, the extremities, and get the salt, sugar, water content back to normal.
Mm.
Now we're powered back up.
Right.
So it has a really great purpose. However, it has side effects, and it's the side effects people don't like.
Right.
Side effects of cortisol hitting the brain. One, it can make you feel anxious for no reason, like
Mhm.
that internal anxiety disorder. Like,
Yeah.
you know, your house is safe, you've got a roof that's not leaking, you got food in the fridge, and that you're lying in bed worrying about everything.
Right.
So, so that flood of hormones is going to exacerbate that worry.
Mhm. Mhm.
Plus, it's your wake up drug. So maybe you get to sleep, but at 2 or 3 a.m., you're wide awake. You can't
Yeah.
get back to sleep.
Right.
And
Right.
everyone will blame menopause on this. Let's clean up the stress hormones first.
First.
I skated through menopause, like no issues, pretty much. Like
Beautiful.
yeah, and it was like it also staved off for 9 years, because I was starting to go through it at 47. Waited till I was like 56, 57 to
Beautiful.
happen.
Yeah.
So adrenal glands healthy means everything else gets to be healthy. You
Yes.
hear a lot about adrenal fatigue too. Well, when we're releasing these hormones all the time, our adrenal glands get very fatigued and tired. And it's
Right.
incredibly important that we keep those healthy for the rest of us
Yes.
to be healthy.
Yes.
Couple other things with the glucocorticoids. They can, your immune system is going to drop with both of these floods, different parts of your immune system.
Mm.
So with the adrenaline or catecholamine cocktail, when that goes out, a little protein called interferon gamma, it actually made headlines during COVID. I love it. It's like
Yes.
freaked me out, right? This
Yes.
little protein reduces about 90%, like in a flash, like boom, there's a drop. And so that's when you're vulnerable. Like that's when you might touch something and go like this and boom.
And yeah,
It's just that moment, that in
space.
time.
Yeah.
And then when the second flood goes out, the glucose and the cortisol, that can drop the immune system up to 40%.
Mm.
And it also affects your ability to heal,
Yeah.
your inflammatory response. So I've helped people, like I had a D1 baseball player, a college baseball player, shoulder surgery, told he could not pitch from the mound for 12 months. That is the protocol.
Right.
I coached him the morning after his surgery, and I told him exactly what to do and to do it all day long.
Right.
And he pitched at the 6-month mark. And even
Incredible.
it was incredible. And even 6 weeks into after the surgery, his trainer and his physical therapist said they'd never seen someone starting to recover as quickly.
Wow.
But he wasn't lowering all that all the time,
Right.
which is what
Right.
we do. And when you can't play your sport, I know this from that first mess I had.
Yes.
You're miserable. You'll trigger the stress response all the time because you
Right.
feel shame that you got hurt. You're
Yes.
not with your team. Like there's so many stressors there.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's what I helped him protect from.
Mm.
To get back in the game sooner. Let's see. Bones and muscles can shrink when you've released this second flood of hormones. So that's just a little bit of understanding. Okay, we trigger the stress response and this is happening. What's causing us to trigger it? You need to identify the triggers.
Mm-hmm.
So I've come up with what I call the A emotions. And of course, it's any emotion like this, but angry or annoyed, anxious or afraid, and anytime we're ashamed.
Yeah.
You hear about anger and anxiety a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't understand in my own being was that small annoyances cause me to trigger the stress response.
Yes.
Like right now, my desk is a little bit messy. I can't look or that will trigger me. Also, I'm very environmentally sensitive.
Right.
I have become much more resilient thanks to Pressure Free because I used to react to every little sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like the other day, I was coaching someone and the leaf blowers came out.
Yes.
So sounds, smells.
Yes.
When I was a small girl, when I was 4, in the same day, I almost drowned and I almost burned to death. So I like 2 huge accidents.
Wow.
I can't even imagine what my parents went through that day.
Exactly.
It was my father saved my life from drowning. I'd fallen into a whirlpool in this river in New Hampshire.
Wow.
And he is springtime, very roaring river.
Yes.
I still feel he grabbed here and he grabbed one arm, like under my arm. Like that's how I was pulled out.
Incredible.
And so I don't like my head below. I can't dive.
Makes sense.
I have a difficulty. I grew up on a lake where everybody in the whole area tried to get me to dive.
Of course.
And I can do everything else. I can water ski like crazy. I can do everything else, but I can't dive. And then burning smells. Like if something's slightly burning in the kitchen, I have to be careful. So those might be your triggers. You're going to start to identify the things that make you feel these emotions.
Yes.
And some of them are overt, like you're going to get them right away.
Right.
And some are very subtle. Like I'm almost 14 years into using the method on myself. I'm still uncovering triggers.
Yes.
Oh. And, when we started our conversation, Sarah, and I'm talking a lot.
You're doing great.
You mentioned seasonal.
Yes.
Seasonal pressures. So good. It's so good because as we enter each new season, here's a couple of them. Most people trigger stress a lot in late August, early September from the stresses they had when they were children going to school.
Yes.
Maybe decades later, and yet they're a little keyed up that time of year. Even if they don't have children themselves, they're getting ready for school. And then like one of my dear friends, she had a wonderful school life, but not a wonderful home life. So her triggering happened in the spring.
Yes.
Because she didn't want summer to come.
Right.
So, and then holidays, we're moving into the holiday season at the time of this recording. Like we're moving into this time period that can be incredibly stressful. I used to take on so much because I wanted to make great holidays for my family, and I ended up stressing everybody out. Like
Yes.
it's just not, I love having pressure-free holidays now. It's more,
Yes.
and in some respects, I probably do more than I did before
Mhm.
because I'm able to.
Right.
And that
It
is
comes
one
from
of
a
the,
free heart. It comes from your heart now as well. It's not just a mandated list of I have to get these things done from outside pressure, right?
you're right. You're right. And I can let go of some things and it's no problem. Like I'm going to let go of that one because, you know, I find like this one's more important, or you can you can be discerning. And that
Yes.
is the word I use a lot in my coaching, in discerning, and I will share it as a tool when we get there. Um, so mapping out these triggers,
Mhm.
it takes some time. I want you to be patient with yourself and very gentle with yourself because
Yes.
I came up with triggers that I've been triggering over since I was a small girl for decades. And I was just like, oh my God, how could I be so stupid? Like instantly beating myself up, which is not helpful, right?
It isn't. Yeah.
It isn't. And
Those
yet
directions.
I could go back in time and say, that's why that conversation went sideways, or
Yes.
that's why that person doesn't even want to talk to me anymore. Like, you know, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
all this stuff in our life that that was so messy.
Mhm.
It's we can't go back, but we get to move forward.
Yes.
And so be gentle with yourself as you're mapping this out. So that's step 2. Step 3, tools and the 10-second solution.
Mm.
So again, from the resting heart rate, you have about 10 seconds to
Yes.
interrupt the stress response. 10 seconds is plenty of time.
Yes.
1001, 1002. We're not going to wait.
Right.
There's plenty of time
It
to
is.
either do something completely or at least start a tool.
Mhm.
And it takes practice like anything at first. So I'm going to encourage you to celebrate every time you notice a trigger, even if you were too late and you feel your face turn red or your stomach
Right.
hurt or your throat close or whatever you feel. I still want you to celebrate because, you know, the next time that trigger comes along, you stand a better chance at
Exactly.
interrupting.
Awareness is always the first step.
Yeah. Can you think of a trigger that's coming to mind for you? Like what's a
Oh,
trigger?
absolutely. For me, it's unsafe. So we spent time, there's reasons for this. Growing up overseas and um, then being hurt in the classroom by a student intentionally. And then coming onto this land that we're on in the homestead. And there's just in the beginning so much stuff that we needed to go through. And things were heavy, they were big. And then my husband and I have been married for almost 30 years. He's left-handed, I'm right-handed. And I didn't realize until we began doing physical things on the property together at how that orientation really impacts things. So when we go to pick up something now, we were moving a chair this morning. And for the first time, he looked at me and said, okay, which direction are we going? Because up until this point, I've been the person who's like, oh, wait, okay, yeah, I can do it left-handed, right? But just not wanting to get hit by these huge pieces of metal or wood or, you know, those kinds of things. So for me, the word that comes up is unsafe.
Unsafe. Yeah. Okay. So then as we get into tools here, I'm going to start with that.
Perfect.
Because and I find it fascinating you say that because I just coached 12 high school volleyball girls. And I don't know what possessed me actually, but at one point I said, how many of you don't feel safe on a daily basis? They all raise their hand.
Yeah.
So we've created, you would think that at this point, with all of our technology and everything we've come up to it with, we would be a safe society, and yet nobody's feeling safe.
Right.
So we're going to start right there.
Perfect.
And it's funny because it's like the first tool. It was not the first tool I taught to those baseball players. I had to change my order of tools
Sure.
because I realized that some of the things I was sharing, they couldn't land because of this thing right here, this safety issue too. So if
Yes.
you place your hands on your belly
Mm-hmm.
and relax your abdominal muscles. And did you have a little tension there?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So most of us hold tension in our abs. We've been taught to do that by trainers. We've
Right.
been taught to do it by our parents. Sit up straight, tuck it in, like
Right.
taught by society. You better be thinner. It's like, okay. So our abs, think of all other animals. Do other animals hold their abs tightly? No. Only if they're afraid.
Right.
They tuck their tails and they hold their abs tightly. Also, do other animals do sit-ups and crunches to tone their abs? They do not. So why do we think that's what we should be doing? It's kind of an interesting question to ask.
It
So
is.
I bring those up just to say, let it all hang out. I was born in 62, so I'm a 70s girl, right? Like that was their
Yeah.
phrase, like, let it all hang out.
Yeah.
But let your belly, you don't have to stick it out, but just relax the muscles. Now you can close your eyes, take your hands and roll it over your stomach to where your stomach tucks back in. Get your pinky edge in there. And now see if you can relax that spot.
Mm-hmm.
People have a lot of trouble relaxing that spot. And that's because we're protecting our deepest, most precious organs right there. And we feel we have to walk around because we feel unsafe. We have to have body armor.
Mm-hmm.
So our abs serve, we don't have ribs down there. You can open your eyes if you're closing them. Our ribs protect our upper organs, but we don't have ribs down there. So our abs serve that purpose and they just go
Mm-hmm.
and they protect us down there. So when you relax there, it's actually a neuroscience trick. Instantly, your brain thinks, I must be safe
Mm.
because I've relaxed that spot. I call that spot your safety, your power, your love, and your money.
Mm.
And if it's tight, we're pushing love away. We're pushing money away. We feel unsafe and we feel disempowered.
Yeah.
So when you relax that spot, it's like the pilot light in a stove. We always have a pilot light going on because we're alive.
Right. Yes.
So you can relax that spot. It's just like a hot air balloon thing, like whoosh, Okay, now we are open. Now we are fully aligned. We can get aligned. I'm going to take you into deeper alignment, but that's the first step. Just relax your abs. The second tool I want to share is about posture. So I've always taught this, but 6 years ago, I found the most amazing posture and body coach that I think lives on the planet. Like she's an amazing. And she and I are we've been colleagues for 6 years, but she has taught me, I have taught her, and she taught me what I'm going to share next. So from your shoulders down into your ribs, I encourage you to just go wide. Take up more space. Like we're on the screen here and it's going to take up a little more space on the screen.
Yes.
But we tend to have a lot of shoulder tension. People say, oh, my tension's back here, and we hold this tightly. Again, we're protecting our heart.
Yeah.
Because every person I have coached, male, female, young, old, has experienced some heartache.
Yes.
So we hold our hearts tightly. So when you go wide, it also can feel vulnerable because you just opened up your heart.
Yes.
But when you do that, it's like you're claiming your space, It's not pinching your shoulders back. It's opening wide.
Yes.
So now you're opening so that flame we started down there can now start to travel up through.
Yes.
So we're open wide. And now with that open wide heart, lift your heart up to the sky a little bit, like you're elongating the front of your body. Your ribs are going up away from your hips, and you're just creating length in the front of your body. How does a dog or cat tone their abs? They stretch back.
They do.
They elongate this. And when your head goes back just a little bit, you can feel the engagement all the way down the front of you. So open wide. Now this one's a little funny, but grab your butt muscles. Sit up a little, grab your butt. Pull your butt muscles back so they're supporting your spine. Our glutes have two purposes: to support our lower back and to propel us in life. Forward. But most of us are sitting on our butts. And in that case, if we had tails, they would be tucked.
Right.
We're tight in the front, we've tucked our tails. And what signal is that telling ourselves, our brains, and the world?
And the world.
We're scared. We're afraid.
Yes.
So when your butt is back, again, that can feel vulnerable. But now if you were a dog, you would have a happy tail wagging. So watch a happy dog, like their chests are very open, their waist is very slender, and their tail is wagging, It's
Yeah.
hilarious, right?
Yes.
Everybody to be a happy puppy, okay? Or an optimal puppy. Let's put it.
Optimal. Yes.
So, and that, yeah, I mean, see the dogs that are on a mission, like they're not necessarily happy, but they're like on point. Their chest is open. They're in that frame.
Right.
It's so
Yes.
cool to watch. So, all right, I'm going to take it deeper though. I call this sitting on a diamond because my body coach says it'll be a diamond of bones. Okay, grab your thigh, so grab your quads and twist them in and set the leg out a little bit. Grab the other thigh, just twist the muscles in and set that out. So now you're sitting on a diamond of bones. Your pubic bone, your tailbone, and your two sits bones are forming like a diamond shape. So I call this sitting on a diamond.
I like it.
Now you're like fully aligned. Just fully aligned. I can take you, I have so many more things, but we want to get to other tools. So just think wide.
Yes.
That will also help your face get wide. Your throat will open. So your voice will be more beautiful. Because when we go into fight or flight, we get a pinched voice, a tough voice. It either goes growly low or it goes, oh my gosh, higher, higher, higher pitch.
Yes. Yes.
It's not a voice that other people respond to well.
Yeah.
So it's really great to find your real voice.
Yes.
So posture, and I have other body tools, but let's go now to a couple of mind tools. I want to give a couple of each type of tool here. So 3 types: body, mind, life design.
Love that.
So a mind tool is actually the smile. When the corners of the mouth go up, even sarcastically, okay? So maybe you don't feel like smiling, but you can go, oh, I see that.
Yes.
That trigger. It can be sarcastic. When the corners of the mouth go up, you release neuropeptides in your little molecules, okay, that allow the whole cortex to keep working. Because in fight or flight, we shut this down.
Yes.
Our memory's not working, our decision making is foggy, and our willpower is shot.
Yeah.
So now you get to fully function. And so the smile really helps you do that. It's a quick, easy tool, but it literally has a scientific reason, which is cool. If it's not appropriate to smile, again, just the engagement on the corners of that mouth would be helpful. Words are very powerful. So the next tool I have is called the slogan. It's like Nike's "Just Do It." A marketing slogan is how I actually came up with this at first. Like, okay, what's just a phrase or a couple of words that I can pop in my head that will keep me from triggering the stress response? So one of mine is stay up, and I use my posture at the same time.
Yes.
I'm a huge believer in more than one tool because sometimes it takes me like 5 to overcome a trigger.
Yes.
So put as many little systems as you need, but I will go stay up. And it's like I'm getting up and over my problem.
Yes.
I developed this tool many years ago with my violin students. They're playing great, and then they make a mistake or have a memory slip, and they go, oh crap, like all the energy dives into the floor.
Yes.
And so honestly, I used to think in my head, from that moment on in the lesson, I've lost them.
Yeah.
Because they're ashamed of their mistake. That's where that shame can come in.
Shame, yes.
It's like, just pack in your violin and leave, because like I can't teach you now. Like, that's what I want to say. But of course, I'm a very nice teacher, so like,
right.
I had to like figure this out, and I figured out if I could just say stay up, and they kept their bodies up, and they used that kind of a slogan. They kept their instrument up, and they're like, I go, I'm here to help you fix it.
Yes.
Like, that's my purpose.
Yes.
Is for me to find the solution to what just happened there.
Right.
So slogan, very simple. Next tool, I would call it one of my most profound tools for my clients. Ones they go to over and over and over again. It's very great to use when you discern that your thought pattern or what's going on in your head or even out of your mouth is going in a negative direction. It's not supportive. How do we move it into the optimal direction?
Right.
I call it flip the switch. So it's like there's a light switch on your head. and it's turning down because the lights are going to go out if you go into fight or flight. So you have to turn the lights on. So it's actually emotion. But there's
Yes.
an Italian thing. I don't know what it is, but I'm not meaning that for you Italians out there. I got in trouble with a bunch of Italians once. So I'm trying to flip the switch.
Yes.
So turn the lights on. I
Mm.
use a slogan here. I actually look in my head. I smile and I look in my head and I go, caught you. I'm catching myself or my brain
Yes.
going into one of those patterns that is not helpful.
Right.
And then ask yourself an empowering question. So some
Mm.
people call this tool the empowering question, some call it flip the switch. And here's why. An affirmation will not be strong enough. Your brain loves questions. However, we ask it the wrong ones.
Mhm.
I was just coaching a very high level person yesterday who was like, well, how come I can't do blah? And I go, whoa, 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 whoa. How come you, no, that's not going to get you the answer,
Yeah.
right? So why can't I do this?
Mhm.
How those questions are going to give you all the reasons why you can't. Why can't I lose weight? There's a zillion reasons why you can't lose weight. Your brain will work overdrive to tell you why.
Yeah.
So we need to ask questions like, how can I?
Exactly.
How can I lose these last few pounds? Or
Right.
I like to use adjectives and adverbs in the things that I'm doing too. So how can I solve this easily?
Right.
How can I get to solution elegantly?
Mhm.
Use some kind of a descriptive word because your brain loves that too.
Yes.
And now here's the secret. Don't try to answer it.
Right.
Just let it,
Yeah. Mm.
let it bubble.
Consider. Yes.
Yeah. And let the solutions come organically up.
Mhm.
You might remember something from 35 years ago. I once remembered a lesson from 35 years ago on my violin that solved a problem instantly, but I didn't get it right away. It was like 30 minutes later.
Right.
So let the answers come naturally. So flip the switch, huge, great mind tool.
Yes.
Let's give you a couple of life design tools to close out here. The first tool I'd like to share is the spirit of contribution, which I think fits so well with who you are, Sarah, and what you do in the world.
Thank you.
We're a very competitive society.
Mhm.
I was highly competitive. You can't be in classical music
You can't.
and in the sports I was in and not have that kind of drive.
Right.
Drive can be contributive though. Like you
Mhm.
can use that same energy and be contributing to solutions instead of competing with other people. We see
Yes.
that right now with what's going on in the world. There is
Yes.
constant competition and conflict because
Mhm.
people are not in a contributing spirit.
Right.
So I view it as like competition is a split hand. You can win, which is great. You can lose, which is crappy. If you fear you might lose, you trigger the stress response. You underperform, ultimately underperform. You may have a
True.
lot of burst of energy at the start, but then you
Yeah.
underperform. And you also hold back a little bit. And
Mhm.
that's because our brain has to rationalize and justify everything that happens to us.
Every single step. Yes.
So if we hold back, let's say you have a work project and
Mhm.
it's due at this point, and someone says to you, "Oh, do you have that project done yet?" And you're like, "Well, you'll say it's almost done. You make up the little why because it's not quite done. It's not even started, but you'll get it done by the deadline. But then you actually hold back a little bit because if you finish it and they come back to you and say, "Well, I think you missed," da, 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 you'll say, "Oh, well, I didn't give it my all."
Right.
We have to have this
Hedging.
when we're out of the stress response, when we're pressure free, we
Mhm.
need less of that. I'm not going to say we don't go there, but we do it much less
Yes.
because we don't feel like we're in fight or flight and need to protect ourselves. We can actually take criticism a whole lot better.
Mm.
And so that's just something that I note. Spirit of contribution is an open hand. And
Yes.
you mentioned at the beginning this idea that whatever our circumstances in the moment, whoever we are right in this moment, that we get to be optimal in this
Yes.
moment.
Yes.
No matter what the weather is this, well, that might impact us somewhat, but like let's be here. So I
Yeah.
just think of it as an open hand, as
I
a
like
tool.
that. Mm.
Um, and then for some reason, it's popping up to me to give my 3-step goal setting method. So
Yes.
um, 3 simple steps that I teach my clients. Actually, I have a planner I've built that helps them do this every day as well. But
Brilliant.
yeah, it's like write your goals, dreams, and visions every single day.
Yes.
They're just top of mind, and they may switch. You may have the same one for years. Mine for 5 years in a row, the days I did it, and I wasn't perfect, so I missed days. Stay up, pressure free in my genius zone all day.
Yes.
I wrote that over and over and over. Fill it in that's optimal for me. If I don't trigger the stress response, I'll sleep well tonight.
Right.
Well behaved.
Yeah. Elle, I can't imagine you not being well behaved.
That's my husband on that one. We all, we all do stuff, right? Like no one gets out of this unscathed, as one of my friends says. So I wrote that for 5 years. Again, I free flow it with them, like top of mind. And then second step is look at what you've written and write down 2 things or more, but commit to 2 things that forward any of it.
I love that.
And then the third step is very unique. In fact, I'm coaching some C-level execs in a Fortune 500 company right now. None of them, and they read tons of business books, and they've, like I have, like immersed.
Yes.
None of them have ever had anybody tell them to do this. So it's kind of cool. Whatever is on your agenda for the day, add a word to describe how you want to be during the time period, the time block.
That's so powerful.
It's super powerful because most of us have been letting everybody else decide how we feel. Our parents, our bosses, our teachers, our coaches, like everybody.
Right.
And so we're so unaware that we are disempowered. We're unaware of it. We're just flowing with all this emotion and all this craziness all the time. The news will jerk you here and jerk you there because they want you to keep watching and they want you triggered. Right. So when you clean that up, oh my goodness, it's amazing. So writing down, and here are some of my words. I'm not particularly creative here, but my words are fantastic, amazing, exquisite, playful. One of my young students he's now a professional rock musician. He was taking voice lessons. He wrote breathtaking.
Oh, I like that. The play on words, that's fun.
Yeah, you can use a word that kind of matches whatever the thing is. But so it would say like meeting with Tom, amazing. Dental appointment, incredible. Like I don't care what it is.
Right.
It's basically putting a stake in the ground like this time block, even though I'm afraid of the dental chair, means I'm going to have a great time while I'm there.
Right.
So it's not the outcome, it's how you are in it. And that's a very distinctive qualifier there. Because you get it, right?
That is a stake in the ground right there, because it's not about checking off the list. It's about being present in the moment and about how we feel while we are doing life.
Yeah.
I love that, Elle. That is so empowering.
And here's like a conducting analogy to it. So, the conductor's giving the beat, right? This is a beginning conductor.
Right.
They're beating with both hands.
Yes.
But when I can beat with one hand and I can move this other hand fluidly to do something, and we have to hold a space. As a conductor, I had to stand on a podium, hold a space for 70 people in front of me, and 2,000 people behind me.
Right.
So holding that space, that's what you're doing when you claim that during this meeting, I'm feeling this.
Yes.
Like you're just claiming and letting your energy be fully in all directions.
Yes.
In that way. And I just think it's kind of fun. So we're about time out here. So can I give one more tool?
I would love that. Yes.
Because I talked about celebration at the beginning of this tool set.
Yes.
We call it the celebration Ferris wheel. It is 3 parts. It's actually 4, celebrating, which is important. A gross motor motion, which is the fastest way an adult brain can change up a new habit, like make something happen, because you create new neural pathways with a big motion.
Right.
It hopefully will make you smile. So we got the neuropeptides going.
Yes.
And then it will change your posture. So it's called the celebration Ferris wheel. I just want you to take your hands and just push in the air, like you just pushed a Ferris wheel up in the air and it's spinning, okay?
Yes. Yes.
So when you push your hands up in the air, it lifts your posture. It's
Mhm.
funny, so you smile.
Yes.
And it's an interrupter that's a big motion.
Yes.
It's hilarious to work with a team and have them all like pushing the Ferris wheel. It's very funny. So,
Yes.
but it is my starter tool for my clients because I know that they'll really start to have a big impact right away. And what I want from everybody that's watching this is to be able to start gaining something quickly.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then that momentum can start to build.
Exactly.
And, if this makes sense, if I can help you, if I can help someone that is struggling, like
Right.
we don't need to struggle with anxiety and depression like we are.
Right.
It's biologically being built in us, and we get to figure that out.
Yes.
So it's just been an honor to share
Mm.
um, and just give you everything I can give you in an hour.
Elle, you have given us so much, so many tools. And I just want to add one more piece about raising our hands above our heart, above our head. My grandfather was a scientist. He was in the classroom. He was also somebody who worked at Oak Ridge in the summers because he was in the classroom during the school year. But he talked about how people who have their hands over their head every day live longer. And so Grandpa lived to just days before his 100th birthday. But every single day, Grandpa had his hands over his head at some point during the day, just because he knew this. And
Oh,
science has now come in to support the people who are conductors and people who play basketball, hands over the head on a daily basis, that they do live longer. So all the things that you are doing are so important and just so good. And I love that you are open to the possibilities, and as new pieces come in, that you're able to take these incredible tools that you have and even refine them in different ways. I love that you're talking about things that happened yesterday and 6 years ago and 14 years ago. And
yeah.
I love that it's not, this is it and it's never going to change. This
It's
is
not static by any
saying,
means.
yeah, this is it and this works. And let's see if we can add other spices into the whole mix and see if those things will work as well, knowing that the bottom line of all of this is our heart rate and being able to breathe off to the side and being able to sit on a diamond, all these different tools that you've given us. And I just want to give a shout out to Leela Veronica for connecting us, for
Oh, she
introducing
is my
us.
body coach, by the way.
I wondered when you talked about breathing to the side, I wondered if that was from Leela Veronica. So, Elle, thank you so much for the gift of this time, for all of the information that you've shared. And I look forward to conversations in the future with you, friend.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Sarah.
Absolutely.